we want to look at this set of equations. These are three equations in three unknowns. And we're going to be using the Gaussian elimination method to solve it. Now, if you have watched my previous video with examples with the two equations in two unknowns, I'm going to ask you to pause the video, write this down, and make an attempt at this one. Okay, you're finished? Let's see what happens here. Now, you're going to write these in row echelon form of a matrix. Now, remember, row echelon means row rank. Each row will have a certain rank. One row will contain only one unknown because it has a lot of work done on it. Another row will contain two unknowns and the other one three unknowns. So you're going to have something another x plus something another y, then something another z in row 1. In row 2, you will not have an x. X will be eliminated. It will multiply by 0. So you have only y and z. Sometimes I put a little dash across my z, because if I write too fast, it starts looking like 2 instead of z. And then in row 3, both x and y will be eliminated, and you have z alone. So it looks triangular. Alright? So your aim now is to have it like that. Now, in matrix form, what we're going to do is write it in matrix form. This is the system of equations in matrix form. But I will leave out the x's and the y's and the z. Alright? And the equal signs as before. It's 1x, that's 1, plus 3y, that's 3, minus 2z, that's negative 2. Then you have 15 plus 4y plus 1z. And you have 8x. Negative 9 will be here. And 7 will be here. See that? And you will separate the left hand side of the equation from the right hand side, where you know the equal sign divides them into the two sides. You separate them using a vertical line. On the right hand side you have 1, 37, 14. Okay? See that? Now, your aim is to work so that in row 2 and 3, remember this is row 1, row 2, row 3, row 2 and 3 will have a 0 over a 0. Alright? Now the reason is because while you're working, you want to eliminate, say for example, suppose you eliminate x down here. I have a number, call it number 1, number 2, and 0. What happens? If you multiply this 0 by any number, it will be 0. But at some point you want to add it to a new number and it will no longer be 0. If you have 0 over 0, no matter which number you multiply this by and add, you multiply this by a number, multiply this by a number. No matter how you add these two, you get 0 because both of them are zeros. So, let's see what happens here. So here, we're going to want a 0 here and a 0 here, and also a 0 here. A 0 here means we eliminated x, 0 here, eliminated y, and we have only one unknown. Now, if we know y, we can substitute y here. We have a 0 here, we eliminate, we find y, x, y, and z. Right, we would, if we have a 0 here and a 0 here, we eliminated x and y, and we find z. That z, we know what it is, we put here. We have a 0 here, we don't have to worry about x, but we find out what y is. Then we would have found out y and z, so we could put y and z, and then find x. So let's go. Let's try to get a 0 here and here, and also here. What you're going to do is, let's say we have row 3. Let's let me see now. Divide row 3 by 8. Alright? Or what we could do? Divide row 2 by 15. Alright? So we have row 2, 1 over 15, row 2 will lead to our new row 2. So we have row 1 will not change. We have 1, 3, negative 2, 1. Row 2 now. 15 divided by 15 is 1. 4 divided by 15, 4 over 15. Alright? That's one, I'm just suggesting this. 1 over 15, 37 over 15. That could be done. But normally when we're solving these equations, we try to avoid the fractions. So let's try another method. Instead of trying to get 1 here and subtract it from this one, let us multiply row 1 by 15. So row 1, call it 15 row 1, lead to our new row 1. See what I'm saying? One way you could do it is divide this by 15, so you get a 1 under a 1, and you subtract them and get a 0. Right? What we could do, 15 times row 1 will give you a new row 1. So row 2 will not change. 15, 4, 1, 37. Row 3 is 8, negative 9, 7, 14. Now 15 1 is 15, 15 3s, 45, 15 2s, that's negative 15 by negative 2, negative 30, 15 1, 15. See that? Then the next thing we're going to do is say row 1 minus row 2. Give us our new row 2. Alright? So row 1 will not change. We have 15, 45, negative 30, 15. Row 3 will not change, so it remains 8, negative 9, 7, 14. But here, row 1, so remember, you can always add or subtract two equations to get another equation. That's what we're doing here. Row 1 minus row 2, 15 minus 15 is 0. 45 minus 4 is, that's 41. Negative 30 minus 1 is negative 31. And then 15 minus 37, so we have 15 minus 37 gives us negative 22, negative 22. Good. So you see that? Now, let's try and get a 0 here. Right here. What we can do is multiply row 1 which would be like equation 1 by a certain number, and row 3 by another number to get the same numbers above, then what we have here and here could subtract and get 0. Alright? Now, let me see. 80, 15. Let's multiply row 1. Another way you could write this, instead of say 8 row 1, we could say row 1 multiplied by 8 gives you a new row 1. So we'll change row 1. Now, before we were changing only one row at a time, but as you practice more and more, you could change 2 rows at a time. Alright? So row 3 multiplied by, now sometimes you will see other person do it saying 8 row 1. You could also have it as row 1 multiplied by 8. It's the same thing. Row 3 multiplied by 15 gives us our new row 3. Alright? So we can always multiply a row by a number. Each row is an equation, you know. For example, this is 8 or 15x plus 45y minus 30z equals 15. This is 0x plus 41y minus 31z equals negative 22. And this is 8x minus 9y plus 7z equals 14. You have to remember that. Now, row 1 times 8. What is 15 multiplied by 8? You multiply each item in row 1 times 8. 15 by 8 will give you 120. Then 45 by 8 will give you 360. Then negative 30 times 8 will give you negative 240. 15 times 8 will give you 120. Alright, that's our new row 1. Row 2 will not change. So we keep row 2 as it is, 0, 41, negative 31, negative 22. See that? Row 3, we want to change row 3. Multiply row 3 by 15. So 8 times 15 gives you 120. Now remember, we want a 120 over a 120 so that we can subtract them and get a 0. We want to have the 0 in row 3. That's what we're going to do later. And let's continue. Negative 9 times 15 gives us 135. And then 7 times 15 gives us 105. And that is equal to 14 times 15, which will give us 210. Make sure you're following, right? Now, what we're going to do, we're going to change row 3. So, row 2, we could say row 1 minus row 3 will lead to a new row 3. So row 1 will not change. 120, 360, negative 240, 120, 0, 41, negative 31, negative 22. Row 2 will not change. Only row 3 will change. Row 1 minus row 3. 120 minus 120. 0. Then 360 minus 135. So we have 360 minus 135 will give us 360 minus 135 gives us 225. And then negative 240 minus 105 So at negative 345, negative 345, then 120 minus 210 will give us negative 90. See that? Now, it's nice to have this 0 over this 0. Alright? So, what we can do now is work on row 2 and 3. Now, we're going to have some big numbers here. What we can do, in order to avoid having too many big numbers, you don't have to worry about the big numbers. You're using a calculator, right? The calculator can deal with big numbers, but it's a bit more comfortable looking at smaller numbers. This up here, row 1. Let's divide row 1. Row 1 divided by 120 will lead to a new row 1. It will look a bit easier to deal with, less stressful on the brain. 120 over 120 is 1. 360 over 120 is 3. Negative 240 over 120 is negative 2. Where does that come from? 120 over 120 is 1. Okay, good. Looks less stressful now. Alright. We have row 3. We have 0. No, row 2, I mean 0, 41, negative 31, negative 22. Then, when it comes to row 3, we could divide everything by 5, right? We could divide everything by 5. Could we divide by 15? 345 over 15 is a whole number. Alright, we could say row 3 divided by 15 gives us a new row 3. So 0 over 15 is 0. 225 over 15 is 15. 345 over 15, 23, that's negative 23. And then negative 90 over 15 is 6. So it's the same equations, you know, but with smaller numbers, they're a little easier to look at and less stressful. Now, we're going to get big numbers again because we want these two to be the same. So now, let's see what we do. Let's keep row 1 as it is. 1, 3, negative 2, 1. Now, for row 2, let us multiply row 2 multiplied by 15 gives us our new row 2. Now, when we multiply row 2 by 15, we'll get a certain number here. Then, we're going to have row 3 times 41 gives us our new row 3. When we multiply row 3 by 41, we get a new number here. These will be the same numbers. Why? Because 15 times 41 will be the same as 41 times 15. See? So, let's go. Row 2 multiplied by 15. 0 times 15 is 0. 41 times 15 is 615. Negative 31 times 15 will be 465. And negative 22 times 15 will be 330. See that? Then row 3 times 41. 0 times 41 is 0. 15 times 41 is the same 615. So we have 616 over 615. That's the strategy. That's what we wanted. Negative 23 times 41 will give us 322. And then 6 times 41 will give us 246. All right. Now, in our next, we can't scroll down any further, so let us go back up here and write down our next steps. Let's just partition the board with a line. All right, so what we have: 1, 3, negative 2, 1. So we have 1, 3, negative 2, 1. Then 0, 6, 15, 465. 0, 6, 15, 465. 0, 6, 15, 465. And 0, 6, 15, 465. 330. All right. 330 over here. Then we're going to have we're going to have a 0 here, and a 615. 0, 615 will be there. Or what else? 322, 246. 322, 246. 322, 246. All right, so let's work from here. Now, what we're going to do in the new matrix is to say our row 3, row 2 as its larger numbers. Row 2 minus row 3 will lead to our new row 3. All right? So row 1 remains as it is. 1, 3, negative 2, 1. Row 2 remains as it is. 0, 6, 15, 465, 330. But row 3 will change. Row 2 minus row 3. 0 minus 0. That's 0. 615 minus 615. That's 0. Then 465 minus 322. So 465 minus 322 gives us what? 143. Is that what you got? 143. And then 330 minus 246. So 330 minus 246 gives us 84. Nice. Now we have the equation the way we want it. Alright? Even though we have some big numbers here in row 2. 143 and 84. Is there any number we could divide both of them by to make them smaller? I don't think so. We just have to leave it alone. But as for row 2, we could divide through by 5. Well, let me see something. 615. Could we divide by 15? Yeah, we could. Right? 465. And we also have 330. Yeah, we could divide through by 15 to get smaller numbers. You don't really need to, but you have 1, 3, negative 2, 1, 0, 615 over 15 gives us 41. 465 over 15. In fact, we had multiplied by 15 before to get these numbers, so we should be able to divide by 15 to get back smaller numbers, right? So what we had before, 41, 31, 22. Let me see, just look back. Yeah, 41, 31, 22. Oh, these are negative. Hold on. Why did I put this? Just want to make sure about something here. We've multiplied this by 41. These are negatives, you know. Alright. Just to make sure about something, if we multiply row 2 by 15, right? 41 times 15, get 615. This is 31, negative 31 times 15 will give you this. And negative 22 by 15 will give you negative, right? And then 41 times this should be a negative. So these two z's in row 2 and 3 should be negative, right? As if these should be negative. Let's just check. We have this 15 row 1. Yeah, this and this are negative, this and this are negative. They are negative. Then row 1 minus row 3. 15 minus row 1. 15 row 1. Row 1 minus row 2 gives us a new row 2. 15 minus 15, 45 minus 4. Negative 30 minus 1, 15 minus 37. Good, so this becomes negative. Row 1 times 8. So negative, alright, negative, negative. I'm just checking to make sure I have all my negatives. Row 3 times 15. Row 3 by 15. This is negative, you know, right? I left off the negative mistake. Alright, this is positive, positive. Then row 1 minus row 3 give us a new row 3. 1 minus 3, 36. So this would have to change. Made a mistake here. 316. 316 minus negative 135 will be 360 plus 135. 495. This should be 495. Right? This should be 495. Oh, I have 360 minus negative. This row 1 minus row 3 gives us a new row 3. 120 minus 120 gives 0. 360 minus negative 135 gives us this. Negative 240 minus 105 will give us 345. Negative 345. 120 minus 210. Negative 90. Okay, so this is okay as it is. Let me see what happened here now. Row 1 divided by 120. This remains negative. Good. Row 2 remains as it is. Row 3 divided by 15. When you divide 90 by 15, you get 6. Negative 90 by 15, you get negative 6. Just cleaning it up here. Leaving, I left off those signs, those negative. Row 2 by 15, this remain negative, this remain negative, good. Row 3 by 41, this remain negative, and 41 times 6. So we have 41 times 6, but It's 246, but it should be a negative here. Negative 246. All right. So here, this is 1, 3, negative 2 on the left hand side. 1, 3, negative 2. Then 615, negative 465, negative 330. 615, negative 465, negative 330. It's a negative here. 615, negative 322. 615, negative 322. Negative 246. This 246 should be negative. All right. All right. So let's see what happened now. This is a negative. This is negative. Okay. And then row 3. Row 2 minus row 3. 0 minus 0. 0 minus 0 is 0. Good. 615 minus 615 is 0. Good. Then negative 465 minus negative 322 is the same as negative 465 plus 322, right? Giving us negative 143. This should be a negative. And then we have negative 330 minus negative 246, which is the same as negative 330 plus 246, gives us negative 84. It should be negative. Alright, so I clean up all of those mistakes. Well, this looks like exclamation sign. It should be 1. Alright, so here now, we keep row 1 as it is. We keep, well, what we did here. We say row 2 divided by, what was it, 15 again? 615 over 15 give us 41, good. 4 negative 465 over 15 gives us a negative 31. This should be negative. And then when we say negative 330 over 15, we get a negative 22. Alright, so that there should be negative as well. Then here, what we're going to do is rewrite row 3. So we have 0, 0, negative 143, negative 84. Good. So there we have that. When it comes to what they call the Gaussian Elimination method, you will do further work on this. You will do more work, right, to try and get these down to smaller numbers, right? But what we're going to do is rewrite these as equations and see what will happen to them. So 1x plus 3y minus 2z equals 1. We have that. 0x, we don't need to write it, plus 41y minus 31z, right, my z, equal negative 22. And then 0x plus 0y, we don't need to write that. And we say minus 143z, minus 143z equal negative 84. Alright? So, if negative 143z is equal to negative, oh no, yeah, negative 143z equal negative 84. So these are what we have here. So we could find out what Z is, substitute it here, find out what Y is, and so on. Now, let's just do a quick review of what we have before we finish. 1, 3, negative 2 equal 1. Good. 15x plus 4y plus 1z equal 37. Good. 8x minus 9y plus 7z equal 14. Good. So just want to review, make sure everything is all right. 15 times row 1. 15 by 15. 15 3 is 45. 15 2 is 30. Negative 30. 15. We keep row 2 as it is. Keep row 3 as it is. Good. Then we say row 1 minus row 2 gives us a new row 2. So 15, 45, negative 30, 15 remain. 8, negative 9, 7, 14 in row 3 remain. But in row 2, 15 minus 15 is 0. 45 minus 4 is 41. Negative 30 minus 1 is negative 31. 15 minus 37. And that's negative 32. Good. So you see that? Then we say we multiply row 1 by 8. So 15 times 8 gives us 120. 45 by 8 gives us 360. Then 30 by 8. Negative 30 by 8 gives us negative 240. And 15 by 8 gives us 120. Good. We keep row 2 as it is. 0, 41, negative 31, negative 22. But row 3, we multiply row 3 up here by 15. So 15 by 8 will give us 120, as we have here. Then negative 9 by 8. Hold on. 15 by 8. Oh, negative 9 by 15. Right. Negative 9 by 15 gives us one negative 145 here. So we have it there. And then 15 times 7 gives us our 105. Then 15 by 14 gives us our 210. See that? So that will lead to our new row 3. Then after that, we keep row 1 as it is. 120, 360, negative 240, 120. We keep row 2 as it is. 0, 41, negative 31, negative 22. We multiply, we say row 1 minus row 3. 120 minus 120 is 0. Then 360 minus negative 135 gives us 495. And then negative 240 minus 105 will give us negative 345. That we have here. Alright? And then 120 minus 210 gives us our negative 90. Nice. After that, we divide row 1 by 120. Alright? So 12 3 is 36, 12 2 is 24. Alright? 1, 3, negative 2, 1. We keep row 2 as it is. 0, 41, negative 31, negative 22. Row 3 divided by 15. So we say we have 495 divided by 15. Hold on. 0 divided by 15 is 0. 495. 495 divided by 15 is 33. Where did I get that 15 from? 345 over 15, 23, negative 23. Something is wrong here. 495 over 15. 495 over 15 gives us 33. Interesting. Negative 90 over 15 is negative 6. Another error. Let's add here. My. Alright. So we're going to have to adjust. Let's make some adjustment here because I wrote the wrong number here. So what you have? Row 2 times 33, not 15. So we're going to have to change this up. Row 2 must be multiplied by 33. And row 3 by 41. That's what is going to happen. Row 2 by 33. So let's do that. 0 by 33 is 0. 41 times 33 is 1353. So we have 1353. Then negative 31. So we put the negative from now so that I don't forget. 31 times 33, it was 1023. And then negative 32, the answer will be negative. Negative 22 by 33 gives us negative 726. My. Then here, row 3 by 41 now. So 33 by 41. And that will be 1353. Then 23 by 41 negative will be negative 943. And then 41 by 6, when we multiply that, 41 by negative 6 will give us a negative 246. Right, that's what we're supposed to have. So we're going to have to change up some of these things. My. Going to have to make some changes here. Have to change some of these numbers here. Because of that one number that I wrote down wrong. Throws off everything. So 1353 minus 1023, 1353 minus 1023, 1353 minus 1023 would come here. 1353 minus 943. So this is 1353 minus 943. And then minus, both of them are minus, 726, 246. 726, 246. 726, 246. 726, 246. And both of them are minus. My. Then we say row 2 minus row 3 gives us our new row 3. Alright, so write our row 2, 1353 minus 1023 minus 2 minus 726. Then 1353 minus 1353, that's 0. Then negative 1023 minus negative 943, which is the same as plus 943. will give us negative 80. And then negative 726 minus negative, which is plus 246, will give us negative 480. Alright? So that's what we have there. And then we could get smaller numbers in row 3, but let's not bother with that. Let's deal with what we have. Let's write the matrices back in equation form. Let's erase these. So you see, two major errors are made. I mixed up some of the minus sign because I didn't write them, and then realized that even though I did the calculation right, I wrote down a wrong number, and that threw off a lot of things. But let's rewrite this. So 1x plus 3y minus 2z equal 1. Then 0x plus 1353y minus 1023z equal minus 726. And then 0x plus 0y minus 80z equal minus 480. So we can find z then. So what is z now? If 8 is negative 80z equal negative 480, then z would be equal to negative 480 over negative 80. 480 over 80 is what? That's 6. Alright. Now we know that z is 6. Let's write it up here. Z equal 6. We want x equal and y equal. So z is 6. What we do? We say 1353y minus 1023 times 6 equal negative 726. You see that? So 1353y minus what is 1023 times 6? I'll give you 6138. 6138 equal negative 2 equal negative 726. So 1353y equal negative 726 plus 6138. So if we have negative 726 plus 6138, we get 5412. So we now know that 1353y equal 5412. So y would be 5412 over 1353, which is 4. So our y is equal to 4. So y equal 4. Now we know z is y is 4 and z is 6. Now that we know that y is 4 and z is 6, let's look up here. X plus y. Let's just erase some of the working instead of scrolling up and down and back and forth. We already know what x and y are. So here, let's just work with this now. X plus, you say y is 4, z is 6. X plus 4 minus 2 times 6 equal 1. So x plus 4 minus 2, 6, 12 equal 1. X minus 12, 4 minus 12, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Net minus 8 equal 1. So what x is equal to? So that would be 8. 4 minus 12 is negative 8. Add 8 to both sides, so I get 8 and 1, 9. So x would be equal to 9 in this case. X equal 9. So you have your answers there. Alright? So remember, it's a long, complicated process. You might make a mistake, like I did, by forgetting to put on a minus sign where it's supposed to go, or even writing down the wrong number. Especially if you have limited time in an exam and going too fast. But once it's an honest mistake, maybe you won't even lose any mark. Maybe it's just 1 mark or so. The important thing is that you know how to work out this type of problem. Alright, so I'll see you in the next video.